In 2005, a chap called Guy Kawasaki published a blog. Now, Guy had made his name and his money in the world of venture capital, and so people were willing to listen. And in this particular blog, he talks about presentations and the fact that his life had been blighted by some pretty awful presentations, and he'd identified that there was a particular model that works for him, and he called it the 10-20-30 model. 15 years later, we'd like to see if it still stands the test of time. Is it as effective as it was back then, and should people be using it for their presentations? So first of all, let's look at this 10-20-30 model. The 10 relates to 10 key slides that should be in every presentation. And Guy was very much of the opinion you don't need any more than these 10 slides. It was a slide per topic. And going through the list, there are some very obvious things. The structure works well. It starts with the challenges of the audience, something that the team here at Eiffel have always been pushing for, is making the presentation as audience-centric as you possibly can do. So talking about their challenges and then demonstrating how you can fix those challenges seems very logical. We also really like the call to action at the conclusion of the presentation to ensure that you actually do drive action from the presentation, rather than just finishing with a thank you or any questions type slide. So some great content in here. There's nothing on that list that you would necessarily say shouldn't sit within a presentation. There are some things potentially missing. For example, the ability to talk about use cases or case studies, and bringing storytelling more and more into the presentation is something that perhaps would be more appropriate for different types of presentation. But generally, these 10 slides are a good place to start in terms of planning your presentation and bringing your presentation into a more audience-centric way of engaging and speaking. 20 is the amount of time that Guy believes every presentation should be. What's interesting is we still see a vast number of presentations being put in for hour blocks. And we're firmly of the opinion that actually, if you can make a presentation shorter, do it. As long as it's effective, as long as you get the information across and the audience gets value from the information that you shared, be as short and sweet as possible. But putting an arbitrary number on it, 20 minutes is the perfect time, does seem a little naive. And the challenge is that Guy probably doesn't really mean to say that every presentation needs to be 20 minutes, but people will take his advice as gospel. And so if it's 21 minutes, it's a bad presentation, or if it's 18 minutes, it's a poor presentation. So what we've got to do is take his view, which is keep it short, keep it sweet, keep it succinct, and try and hold on to that rule. And then finally, 30. What did he mean by 30? And this is his minimum font size on a slide. Well, first of all, we would ask, do you really need slides in the first place? Are there other ways of you being able to tell your story and engage with your audience that don't demand a set of 10 slides with a 30-point font size on it? And the more dogmatic people are when they come to slavishly following these rules will mean that every font size is 30. Yes, I agree. Less is more when it comes to text on a slide, and Guy in his blog quite rightly calls out the fact that your slide isn't there as an auto cue, it is there to help your audience understand the information and reinforce the information that you're sharing with them. One of the phrases we use a lot here at Eiffel is this idea of the slide being the visual punctuation. It is there merely to support the presenter. So frankly, don't sweat too much about the size of the font. Try and get rid of all text if you can, and make it as powerful as you can in terms of a visual punctuation. We've written about this in the presentation lab book, and we've talked about that previously as well. So there's a section here that kind of takes Guy's 10-20-30 rule and breaks it down a little bit further. But what I would say is 15 years down the line, it still stands up. There's some very strong common sense advice here. Having a strong structure that covers off the key audience-centric requirements and messages is really important. Making sure that you don't overstay your welcome, keeping the presentation as short and as sweet but as relevant as possible is also incredibly important. And of course, minute text that is of little value to your audience and only acting as an auto cue for you, the presenter, is a major no-no. What I would say and implore anybody that's looking to follow a particular rule is one size never fits all. When it comes to presentations, they are as fluid as their audiences. The tools that you use, the length of presentation time that you have, the calls to action, all of those things are going to be very, very different depending on the type of audience you're engaging with and what you and they are looking to get from it. So do take time to understand a little bit more about Guy's 10, 20, 30 rule and have it tucked away as part of your presentation toolkit. But do recognise that this is one of many great ideas that are out there to support your presentation in delivering your objectives and making it of value to your audience. So shop around, find the one that's most appropriate to you and move on from there. For more information about story structure and ideas, please pop along to our website. It's full of ideas, insight and examples of how to take your presentation to the next level.